Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest, Dr. Debra Atkisson, who's here to share with us her new book, Master Your Storm: Insights from a Psychiatrist and Coach. So what if the biggest obstacle standing between you and the life you want isn't the storm around you, but the fear, stress, and self-doubt within? I'm sure many of us would like to know how to fix that. And today's guest is here to share with us just that. Dr. Debra Atkisson is a nationally recognized psychiatrist, executive coach, and leadership speaker who brings more than 35 years of expertise in mental health, organizational culture, and physician development. Dr. Atkisson currently serves as Senior Vice President of Blended Health, where she integrates clinical insight, strategic leadership, and coaching methodology to advance mental health outcomes across diverse systems. So welcome to the show, Dr. Debra Atkisson.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here to discuss this with you today.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
A lot of people have asked me that question. What I can tell you is in my more than 30 years of practicing as a psychiatrist and my almost a decade of being a certified coach, that I have a mission to help people live their best lives. And I believe I sit at the intersection of where I've been able to witness people in periods of storms. What I do know is that when someone is in a storm, their ability to cope and use those healthy coping tools that we in mental health are often able to help them with is often impaired. And their ability to think forward and develop a plan of action, which is what we do in coaching, is often impaired. So from what this book does is it really helps people be able to use tools they already have and formulate a way to move forward, or to actually give them some additional tools to help them move forward.
So, how would you define a personal storm, and what are some of the most common storms people face today?
Personal storms can be a multitude of things: a major catastrophic event, a significant life illness, anything that really disrupts you. For people, it can be periods of burnout, which we hear a lot about today as well, or it can be a time when you feel just completely stuck in your career. Storms are something that we all experience at one time or another, Mary Ann. All of us have had a storm at one point. I've learned that from talking to people. And what can happen is people can get stuck in that, and that can actually define where they are, and they can stay in a dead end. Or people can use this as a catalyst to help them be able to find a way to move out of the storm and move forward.
Such important information, and I am pretty sure everyone listening has had their own personal storm before. So, if they're not sure if they're in a storm or not, what are some things that they can look out for to kind of identify for themselves, hey, I might be in a storm?
I think that when you find yourself in a period of which your life feels like it's very much in a rut, or you're on a treadmill, you're not getting joy from things, you don't find that you have things to look forward to, it can mean one of several things. For some people, it can mean that they're struggling with the mental health concerns such as depression or anxiety. For others, it can mean that they are in a position in work which isn't really feeling what they're called to do or what their gifts are. And so these are different things they need to tease out by. I often recommend someone talk to a coach, a mentor, a mental health professional. From where I sit, I really feel I sit at the intersection of these things. In my role as Senior Vice President of Clinical Services at Connections Wellness Group, I am over all the clinical matters that happen there. When it comes to coaching, which I do through Achieve Coaching RX, I work with people who are professionals who are trying to move forward, as well as people who are in other walks of life who wish to move forward out of whatever they're dealing with at the moment. So I'm able to see this as a continuum for what people need.
I love how in your book you really dive into the topic of anxiety. So, how can we distinguish between healthy anxiety and unhealthy anxiety? Can you explain what that looks like?
Well, I will tell you, Marianne, in today's world, it's often not easy to distinguish those two. Healthy anxiety is something we should all have, and it's where something brings up anxiety or fear, such as perhaps preparing for a radio interview, which I was doing today. That's a moment of healthy anxiety where you think about what is it that I will be talking about and what are the important points to be made. What a healthy anxiety does is it helps you prepare for something. It helps you be mindful. It helps you think about it. It helps you evaluate if you need to change something. That is healthy anxiety. In today's world, we live in such a pressure cooker of expectations, constant data, information and misinformation that is thrown at us that we have to sort through. And people who have a genetic tendency to have more anxiety than others, because we know there's some genetic tie to that, can really develop significant anxiety, can have panic, can be stressed. That's when anxiety becomes unhealthy, when you're not able to function well. When you can't do those things that healthy anxiety lets you do: prepare, think through things, and be mindful.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that has health anxiety before interviews. Well, in your book, you also share about anxiety paralysis. And I'd love for you to explain what that is and why do you believe so many people struggle with that?
Oh, this is one of the most common things I've ever dealt with in coaching. And I've also dealt with it significantly in mental health. Anxiety paralysis occurs when someone is using a way to try to cope that is really not that adaptive, and they just kind of keep repeating it because they're stuck in a loop. That is how I think of it. And they're not able to shift into using some healthy ways of coping. I'll give you a mental health example. I'm sure you've heard of people having obsessive compulsive symptoms. Obsession compulsion is simply a form of anxiety. It's a more severe form of anxiety where the way a person deals with internal feelings of anxiety is to develop some repetitive pattern they might do, such as repeatedly washing their hands, repeatedly checking an oven, repeatedly checking a door. And that's really not a healthy way to cope with it, but it lowers their anxiety in the moment, but they're also paralyzed in a loop they can't get out of.
So, how has your life shaped your perspective on resilience and personal growth?
I'm so glad you asked me that question because people think of resilience often as something that people develop through significant hardship. And it is true. It is true that someone who lives through a significant hardship will develop resilience as a way to cope if they do make it through that successfully. I also believe, though, that we can intentionally develop resilience. We can intentionally develop resilience by selecting a task, a dream, something that we wish to do, and working towards that as a goal, getting someone to train us or to coach us or assist us in the pathway. How has my life shaped that? Well, I can tell you as a young girl from West Texas growing up on a farm that I really didn't see myself going to medical school at some point in my life, much less the kind of career that I've had, which has just been a true blessing. And I had to develop a lot of resilience whenever I encountered systems that I knew nothing about or did not understand anything about that were unknown to me. I believe that in doing that, it helped me have more resilience as I went through other phases of training and had other experiences in my life. I think all of us should actively think about ways to challenge ourselves to grow. We're meant to do that. We're all a work in progress throughout our whole lives.
I think life becomes so much more interesting when we look at ways that we can expand and grow and learn as opposed to, oh, look what life did to me. It really kind of shifts the energy.
Completely. I think that when people have something happen where they are called upon to have to dig down inside to look for ways to be more resilient, they can begin to take a different viewpoint when something comes along instead of, oh my goodness, this horrible thing is happening or it's about to happen. What am I going to do with it? You begin to think of, okay, I see it coming. It's about to hit. How do I navigate this? How do I work through this? How can I go about this with intention and balance? And I think when people approach things from that viewpoint, that makes you feel more in control of what the outcome is. We can't always control everything, but if we approach it in a way of using our best effort, we can in some ways master these types of circumstances that we find ourselves in.
So, what's the first step that we could take to create like just meaningful change in our life?
I believe that the first thing people should always do is take a moment to evaluate their own balance. That's what I call it. What are ways that you cope? What are ways that you deal with things? Are they working for you? Are they not working for you? Take a moment to look at what is my emotional temperature right now? How do I feel? Am I most of the time feeling angry, sad, depressed, lonely? What is going on with me inside? What is going on with me with how I cope? What I see in my life as my strengths? Take a moment and look at the things that you feel are pulling you down, then pull back and say, what are my strengths? We all have them, and we all lose sight of them in a negative moment. I think once you do that, it's important to say, what has served me in my life when I've been functioning well and moving forward? Have I gotten away from that? One thing that I do in the book is I start with, why are you picking this book up in the first place? And then I talk about basic mindfulness. We actually employ mindfulness in a variety of ways every day. We employ it when we're sitting and thinking about our day and reflecting. We employ it if we have a spiritual practice, such as prayer. That is also a moment of mindfulness that's occurring. We employ it in a number of ways. It's important that we find a way to do that every day for our health. There's a lot of studies about this. This shows the impact upon brain health and upon the ability of a person to grow and move forward positively. So, looking at your balance is the first step. After you do that, you can then become empowered to use the tools that have worked or new tools you need to develop to make a plan to move forward.
Well, and to dovetail with that, so how does meditation, mindfulness, and gratitude play? Like, what role does that play in someone navigating a difficult season of life?
Oh, it plays a vital role. When you are in the middle of a storm and it feels as if you don't know what will happen next, being able to be mindful for a moment and realize, okay, I'm in the middle of this. My heart is still beating. I'm still breathing. The air that I breathe, I have clean water to drink. I mean, that may sound simple, but I've worked with people before who even brought that up because of volunteer work they'd done in other places, other countries that didn't even have that. If you take a moment to become very basically grounded and mindful of where you are and what you have in that moment, what it will do to your brain is it will help calm your brain. Mindfulness will go in and neurologically it moves us out of that anxiety driven sympathetic system to where it's fight, flight, or freeze. It will move us out of that into the parasympathetic nervous system. It's like pushing a reset button that is sending signals in our brain to calm our body. That is why the practice of mindfulness is so important. Once you've calmed your body, you're actually able to think more clearly. And that's why states of anxiety, going back to what we talked about earlier about the anxiety paralysis. Well, the anxiety paralysis actually causes you to not be able to think clearly at all. You lose about 30% of your executive functioning in those moments to be able to problem solve. It appears that you could either do this or that. You're not able to see all your choices and ways to navigate things. So once you're calmer and you're able to use your brain a bit better, it becomes easier to see you have more than one or two choices as to how to deal with that storm that you're in.
And do small daily practices have a powerful long term impact with us?
They absolutely do. I believe that 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, if you will invest that in a mindfulness practice. And you heard me talk about breathing. There's many ways to do breathing. I talk about it in my book in the chapter Mindfulness in Me, which is a brief chapter. Um, I talk about ways in which you can use just breathing. You can do breathing anywhere you are because we're breathing all the time. So you can be in a stressful situation and practice your breathing to help you get out of a moment. I also mentioned spiritual practices. The act of prayer, whatever your faith tradition is, the act of prayer can actually be calming and beneficial to you as well. It's as if it's a mindfulness practice of its own. So there's other ways that you can engage in mindfulness daily. I'll tell you something that might make you chuckle. I have a friend who was seeing a therapist, and this friend had actually gone through one of our intensive outpatient programs at Connections Wellness Group. And she had really struggled with irritability and agitation, which had led her to have some issues with her job. Her therapist had talked with her about practicing mindfulness. And she said to me, I'm not doing it every day. And I don't think I would probably make a C on a mindfulness grade. And I said, well, are you better? She said, amazingly, I am. And I said, well, think of how great you would be doing if you were doing it every day. So even practicing it not every day is quite beneficial. And that's one of the things in coaching that we do quite a bit when we're working with people. When we first begin our time together to plan on something, we just take a moment to help someone reset where they are. People rush from either Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting or from appointment to appointment physically, and just taking a moment to breathe and reset really helps clear your mind to be able to do your best work.
In your book, you share about intention as a key part of personal growth. How is intention different from simply setting goals?
Oh, well, both are important. I'll start with that. Setting goals is important in terms of something you are working towards that you want to achieve. And I believe when I work with people in setting an overarching goal, to which is what they're really working towards, but then we have smaller measurable goals on the way to that overarching goal. Intention is something I believe we should all consider doing every day. I'll share my own practice of intention. I set my alarm 10 minutes before I need to get up every morning. When the alarm goes off, I actually, in my mind, review my day, and I will say to myself, what is the most important intention for me today? On a day that's going to be really packed and difficult, and I know that it will be difficult, I take a breath and say, I'm just acknowledging this will be a hard day. However, my intention for the day is to try to be pleasant and kind to everyone I meet, regardless of what is being thrown my way for the day. That would be my daily intention for that day. My intention might look a little different on other days.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And earlier, we kind of touched on brain health. So, how does the concept of neuroplasticity support the idea that people can change and grow throughout their lives? Because you often hear people say, "Oh, this person's always going to be the same." I mean, is that even true?
That is not true. Marianne, we used to believe that once people were adults, which used to believe it was around age 18, which is technically you're an adult at 18, but we now know the brain is really not fully formed until about age 25. And we believe that when you became an adult, your brain was sort of set. The way I like to think of it is it was set in concrete. That is simply not true at all. What we know is that the brain can change over time, even into our older age. Health habits have a lot to do with positive brain changes in terms of our dietary habits, our exercise habits, our sleep habits. All of those strongly impact that. But Other habits that we practice, such as mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, connection, intentional connection to other people, all of those things have a positive impact on neuroplasticity and contribute to positive brain health.
I love how your book really explores evaluation and self assessment as an important part of any personal development journey. Can you share on the differences between the two?
Oh, yes. So, evaluation and self assessment. What I do in the book is I do this at a very broad level. This is not an in depth dive on any of the areas, but I touch on what I believe are the key areas when we are truly stressed or we're in the middle of a very difficult time that we need to hit the pause button on and look at. And those things are physical health is always a foundation we have to think about. Doing a good overall, just quick look at that. Are we doing the things our physician tells us to do? For instance, if we have high blood pressure, are we taking medication for that? Are we practicing health habits by getting adequate sleep? Are we eating adequately? Are we getting some exercise? The very basics we always hear about, but when you're under stress, you don't think about and you do not do. I also ask people to look at their relationship health, their financial health, their intellectual health, and under that umbrella would fall career and occupation and spiritual health. All of those matters are very important. And I ask people to take a moment. It's almost like taking the temperature of each of those areas of your life. And what you often find is there may be one area that you really need to shore up more than the others. And so by doing just an overall assessment, evaluation, or maybe even triage might be a better word, of all those areas, you determine where do I need to really channel my efforts to intensely make a plan about how I will move forward. In my book, at the end of each of those chapters, I ask questions and I have places, the book has places where people can write answers to look at how they're thinking. When you read something, just a short amount of material, and then you write answers to the questions, it really does help your brain start to knit together what you're needing to do to move forward. It activates you.
How does accountability and action help transform insight into lasting change?
It's essential for lasting change. Every January, all of us develop lots of New Year's resolutions, or we typically do. I have a few friends who finally have decided that they are going to make a resolution not to make resolutions, but most of us make resolutions with good intentions. We plan on we're going to have these changes in place. If we don't make a plan and then have a way to be held accountable, it doesn't happen most of the time. So we can even have a great plan, but if we don't have a way of accountability, it often will not be done. Accountability is helps you be able to know I'm going to be checking in with someone, even if it's a self check in. I'm going to put a point in time where I will do a check in. I think it's often better, especially with things that are a little more difficult to accomplish, if you have an accountability partner of some sort. That's where a coach can work well, that's where a therapist can work with you um, to help you with whatever you're trying to achieve.
What would you like readers and our listeners to take away from your book?
The first thing that I would like them to take away with is that we really cannot stop life storms from rolling in and impacting us, but we can change how we navigate them. Um, I also believe that it is true that a single moment can change someone's life. And I believe that when you embrace the fact that you know you are creative, resourceful, and whole, and that even if you're in the middle of a storm, the answers that you need to navigate the turbulent times you are in are already locked inside you. You just need the right tools to unlock them. You can have that moment where you have an aha experience and realize, I am going to be able to make it through this. That's what I would like people to take away. Everyone has strengths, everyone has untapped abilities when they are in the middle of something difficult, and sometimes they just need some help or a guide to help them walk through it. This book can help you with that process.
So, Doctor, where can people learn more about your work and be part of your community?
So I can be found in two different places. If you're interested in coaching, my website is achievecoachingrx.com. I would encourage people to go and look there. I have several blogs that I have written and also some other media performances that are there where people can look at that information and they will be able to get some tools and tips there. If people are having a significant mental health concern, I encourage them to go to connectionswellnessgroup.com. They will find that we offer a lot of mental health services as well, and I oversee the clinical components of those services. So those are two different places that people can find me. I told you I was at the intersection of two worlds, Marianne.
You really are, my goodness. And this is just such a profound book. Doctor, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure to spend this time with you today. I appreciate the work you are doing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Atkisson. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Master Your Storm: Insights from a Psychiatrist and Coach. Make sure to visit her website at achievecoachingrx.com for more information on her work and to be part of her community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.